Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and this August, the brand new LEGO Marvel Age of Ultron Quinjet is going to be released. It features the return of Quicksilver after 10 years of not being made into a minifigure, our first new version of Ultron from the movie as well, plus, of course, the fully detailed Quinjet itself. This is one of the most hyped LEGO Marvel 2025 sets, but the question is, does it live up to the hype? Join me for the early review right now. This is part of the Infinity Saga, and it is the Age of Ultron Quinjet. The set retails for $130 and comes with 1,131 pieces, as well as a couple of exclusive minifigures, specifically Quicksilver making a return from 2015, and Ultron from the movie, also making a first appearance since 2015 for this particular variation. We do have the return of the Age of Ultron version of Hawkeye, which came in the Age of Ultron diorama, strangely enough the wrong version of Black Widow, including the version of her from the Avengers 1 movie and Civil War instead of the outfit that she wore during this scene in Age of Ultron, which was literally made last year and is still in production. It also does include, thankfully, the right version of Iron Man in his armor for this particular part of the movie, so that is a good thing. But very strange how one of the minifigures is just objectively wrong when they have the actual correct version made. Taking a look at the main ship though, this is maybe my favorite version of the Quinjet ever. My buddy Jonathan, aka Mini Superheroes Today, did a comparison video showcasing all the different Quinjets combined, and by looking at them all spread out together, I have to say this absolutely looks the best in my opinion. The color scheme is absolutely phenomenal. I love how most of the detail is brick built instead of being stickered or having an over-reliance on showing different colors by stickers or just decals. They're actually brick building all of the different bits and pieces of color striping along the wings. The bits of red, the light gray, the dark blue, it absolutely looks phenomenal as a build. And that is one of my favorite things about this set, is just how good it looks on display. And that's a really cool thing about this model for me. While it is obviously meant to be played with by kids, it absolutely is also meant to be a display model, and it really bridges the gap very nicely between being a display piece as well as being something that is just very swooshable and fun for kids to play with. Some of my favorite details include the studs on the side mounting of the angled tile elements for the intakes on the jet, and the fact that they're very consistent in the color scheme showcasing the exhaust engines. They're using the coral color to represent kind of the inner core of the fire or jet engine fuel bursting through the exhaust, and that's a detail that is remarkably consistent throughout the entire model. In fact, if you look at the underside of the model, where you can see it's mounted on a stand where you can rotate the ship back and forth thanks to a friction gear, you'll notice that there are these special stickered elements of these transparent flap pieces, which is something that you can see in the actual movie, showcasing the jet engine exhausts underneath them. It's a very subtle detail and not one that you're going to see all the time, but I really appreciate the attention to detail even on the underside of the craft. It reminds me of some of the phenomenal builds they've done for the Guardians of the Galaxy ships over the years, where the underside of the model looks almost as good as the top in some cases. While that is the only detail featured here and the rest of it is mostly the underside of studs, I do appreciate the usage there, and again, you can see the color scheme is consistent, utilizing that coral color with transparent blue over it to showcase the jet engine exhausts. Moving on to the overall shaping of the model itself, one of the interesting things the entire model does is have the front half of the cockpit be mounted forwards at a very slight rake and a slight angle. It's a super subtle design detail, but one that really makes it feel very angular and sleek, and that's something I really do appreciate about the way the model looks. It isn't just utilizing your standard studs up system. There are very subtle angles being used to make the cockpit be slightly more forward mounted and making the entire model feel like it's curving forwards. And of course, you do have the option to curve the wings up as well on a series of hinges, which is something that we've seen on prior versions of the Quinjet, but is also integrated really slickly and cleanly in here. Here's another look at those engine intakes I was talking about with those really nice tile elements mounted on the side, and thankfully the windscreen is printed in this model, so you don't have to worry about applying transparent stickers to the windscreen. It is fully printed as an exclusive element of this piece. Moving onwards to the inside of the cockpit, you can simply remove the cockpit for access into the interior of the model. There's seating for several minifigures. There's a pilot seat, kind of a middle section, and then a couple of seats in the back, so you can actually seat a number of minifigures in here, which is really nice. You can see the alert sticker featuring Ultron, and then another look at the way the cockpit itself is hinged, with studs in the side techniques used for the front, as well as hinges connecting everything at a slight angle. The other sticker on the side showcases the Quinjet, kind of the top-down profile there, so it's a nice little engineering display. And then, of course, you can zoom on inwards into the cockpit, and then there's a very simple transparent targeting reticle sticker, which you can see mounted there. The back of the Quinjet does open up, and just like in the movie, you can kind of deploy your minifigures out of the back ramp, which is a nice touch. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite fit the motorcycle included for Black Widow in the back there. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, but with the minifigure mounted, there's just no way it's rolling out, so you can't really copy that feature, which the older one actually did have. You could drop the motorcycle down, but all things considered, I'm definitely more happy just having the aesthetics be prioritized here rather than a play feature, which maybe you're only going to use a couple of times. Here's what the 3 minifigures included in the set look like, featured inside the Quinjet, and then the 2 other flying minifigures can be flying on the stand, so there actually is pretty nice adequate space for all the different characters, even though when the cockpit is fully closed up, you can really only see one of them inside. It's just a nice detail for play, but not really something that adds too much to the display of the model. Moving onwards, you can see that the entire Quinjet itself has a back roof section which can be fully removed, and the Quinjet itself just pops right off the stand. It's really only attached by a couple of studs, and studs mounted on pins, so it can really easily just slide in and out, and it is a really nice touch. It's quite secure once it's in place thanks to gravity, but then you can very easily remove it as well, and the stand itself is really nicely done. Overall, I do want to start summing up my thoughts on this set by taking a look at the value of this model. This retails for $130, 120 euros, and comes with 1,131 pieces, which on paper is a little more expensive than it should be, but to be completely honest, I actually think that it's alright value, especially compared to everything else in the wave. If you look at the other sets in the wave, this is actually one of the more reasonably priced sets, which is unfortunate to say. I will say that. I'm not necessarily excusing higher prices because everything else around it is even more expensive, but I will have to say that for everything you do get, I'm actually fairly okay with the value here. In 2023, we got the Quinjet based off of the first Avengers movie, and that one only had 795 pieces, but retailed for $100. So technically, this is even better value than that. And even going all the way back to the last large-scale Quinjet we got for Avengers Endgame in 2019, that one was $80 for 838 pieces. So we're all kind of in the realm of reasonability here. Moving on to the minifigures, we have Iron Man Mark 43, which is the suit of armor that he wore throughout Age of Ultron. We actually previously got this minifigure in the Age of Ultron battle last year, and it is good to get it again. Technically, in the scene in the movie that the Quinjet appears in, he was actually wearing a slightly newer version of the armor, the Mark 45, which they did do for the original 2015 Age of Ultron sets, but they've just chose to reuse the Mark 43 here. But I'm more okay with it because at least this one did appear in Age of Ultron itself. So given that this set is a celebration of Age of Ultron as a whole, I'm more okay with it than I am with some other minifigures in this set. Now, for the first time since 2015, we are getting a movie version of Ultron. They haven't resurrected the mold they used for the upper part of his head, but I actually think this is even more screen accurate than the older one. It almost is the perfect form for Ultron based on his appearance in the final battle of that movie, and I really appreciate it. It's a little strange to get a couple of different versions of Ultron in the same year, the first one coming in the Iron Man mech, which is comics based, but I'm really happy with this particular design. It's super accurate to the MCU, the facial expression is absolutely perfect, and it just looks a lot better than the older version because they really spent a lot of time to try to capture his likeness in the movie. So altogether, easily one of the standout figures of the set for me. Moving on from that, we have Hawkeye here, and Hawkeye is returning from 2024's Age of Ultron battle. He is using the suit that he did wear throughout the Age of Ultron movie, so I'm pretty happy to see that one being used. It is the correct suit, so LEGO does in fact know that they can use the suits from that diorama in this set, so it is nice to get it. Overall, it's a pretty good design for the character. I think the hairpiece they introduced in the Disney Marvel CMF series, which was very good, is used to great effect here, and and I do like the printing on the torso and back of the torso as well. It just looks really good for Hawkeye, so not really anything to complain about. Quicksilver, on the other hand, is a very strange update compared to the original. They're reusing the more generic Bucky face that they introduced earlier this year, where clearly that head was made to just be a generic face, but I don't know, I don't really feel like it fits the character that well. The hairpiece is also a very strange choice. It's a white recolor of the Han Solo hairpiece, which doesn't really look that much like it does in the movie, and really the only good thing about it is that, well, it's been 10 years since our last one, and the outfit actually is pretty decently accurate compared to what it looks like in the movie. It just is a series of baffling figure choices otherwise, though. And moving on, speaking of baffling figure choices, it makes absolutely no sense to me as to why Black Widow is in the wrong outfit in this set. They literally made one, it's in production for the Age of Ultron version of Black Widow. The only explanation I can even think of is that they wanted to keep a couple of the figures exclusive to that set, but even then, I don't think that's a good enough argument because this set is literally supposed to be based off of Age of Ultron. It says so on the box and all the other figures are from Age of Ultron, so I really don't understand why they're using the objectively wrong Black Widow minifigure. It's not like there's a discontinued version that they don't make anymore, they made it last year, so very, very strange inclusion. Altogether, for $130, despite the complaints that I do have, I actually do like this set a lot. I think it is, again, the best Quinjet we have ever gotten, and it does feel like a reasonably good value for the price. I just wish that there were a couple of updated minifigure choices. Quicksilver is a weird one to me. It would have been good to get a new version of Iron Man Mark 45, because that's the one that he actually wears in this part of the movie, and of course, the Black Widow is just the wrong figure. So, minifigure-wise, kind of weak, kind of strange, but that is absolutely not news when it comes to Marvel. Unfortunately, Marvel sets have been suffering from some pretty underdeveloped and under-detailed minifigs, and I actually did a whole video on my problems with the whole Marvel theme a few months ago, and while this wasn't even revealed by then, it absolutely falls under the same complaints I had in that video, where it just seems like there's a lot of cost-cutting happening for a lot of the Marvel sets minifigures-wise. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, and be sure to like and subscribe for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Thanks, and bye for now.